Hi everyone, it's Joe Chambers with Chambers Custom and 1911 University, bringing you another mathematical review. Before we get started in the review, as always, I'll remind you that this is a sample of one from the company that built this gun, and your results may or may not be reflective of the measurements that I'm going to talk about today. Although in this case, I can pretty much assure you that your results will be similar if you do what we talk about in this video. Alright, so the gun that we're going to talk about today is a original Chambers Custom Night Fighter. This one is serial number 20, belongs to a friend of mine, and this gun was built in November of 2019 by Eric here at the shop under my watchful eye. And great looking gun. This is a gun that we did in collaboration with Chuck Pressburg. It's got the OD green grip. This particular gun has DLC coating on the slide frame and small parts. The barrel's blued and the bushing's blued. It's got the Chambers Custom RDSM plate, and this one actually has one of the original OG plates that required the stobs, unlike the new ones that we have that have the machine stobs already in them. It's got ambi thumb safeties. It's got mag well that everybody seems to like. It's a little bit big, but not too big. It's got, he put a 508T on there for the dot. It's got a bushing barrel, full-length guide rod. We run Springco 13-pound recoil springs in these, and it's got a 20-pound mainspring. So, with that, I'll talk a little bit about the gun. My friend who owns the gun has recorded 14,300 rounds through this gun, and that makes for a total of 14,800 rounds with the 500 that we shot through it before we shipped the gun. He has cleaned it, since he's owned it, he's cleaned it 19 times, and he's pulled the extractor out 3 times to clean it. It actually came into me, in all transparency, because it wasn't extracting. And I found out why when I pulled the extractor out, and the extractor tunnel was completely full of grease and grit and goop. So the lesson there is, pull your extractor more often than 3 times in 14,000 rounds and clean the hole out. The owner of this gun used primarily Lucas Extreme gun oil, and I've never tried Lucas Extreme gun oil, but I'm going to after seeing the results on this particular pistol. This gun, when these left the shop, they had extremely good tolerances, and I think you're going to be surprised to see after this many rounds that this gun still has extremely good tolerances. As a matter of fact, I would argue that the tolerances on this gun are tighter than many other guns that we've measured that are brand new out of the box from other manufacturers. So the combination of keeping the gun clean, using a quality lube, and shooting quality ammo through this gun has allowed the tolerances to maintain very, very well throughout the process of building. So this video is going to be a little bit longer because I'm going to talk to you about the measurements that are on the gun now and the measurements that were on the gun originally when it shipped, because I keep track of both of those. Alright, so with that, let's get into the review, and remember, math don't lie. 3.14 is always pi. Alright, the bushing ID measures 0.58075. The barrel OD measures 0.57975 for a difference of 0.001 or 1/1000ths. Originally, the bushing measured 5805 and the barrel measured 580. So we can see that both the bushing and the barrel opened up about 1/4 thousandths, best we can measure with the tools we have available, which are very good tools. And the overall opening up was 1/2 thousandths after 14,000 plus rounds. The slide ID was 0.7028 and the bushing OD was 0.7025 for a difference of 0.3 thousandths, 0.0003, which is what it was in the beginning. The bushing cannot be turned with your fingers. I mean, I have really strong hands and I couldn't turn it. The bushing has 0 fore and aft movement when the gun's in battery. The barrel hood to breech face gap is 4 thousandths. Now this did open up. Originally the gun had a barrel hood gap of 1,000s, but we know that within about 5,000 to 10,000 rounds, they tend to open up and then they stop. They get settled in. Now, we've solved some of that problem, and we're finding that with our solution that we came up with in the shop, that we're only getting about 2,000s opening up. So typically guns are only opening up to about 2,000 or 3,000s now. But 4,000s is still very acceptable for a gun that has, 15,000 rounds through it basically. And it's also quite a bit better than all the guns that we measure on a normal basis on the channel. Chamber depth is 757, and it has started to elongate just a tiny bit due to the number of rounds being fired. Slide stop pinhole in the frame is 0.2015, which was what it was from the beginning. Slide stop pin diameter is 0.1198, again, what it was from the beginning. So a difference of 0.0017. The extractor length on this gun is 2.233. Now, you might say, well, Joe, that's a lot shorter than you normally recommend, and you'd be correct. But the secondary measurement that we always look at is the gap between the breech face and the extractor hook. And the minimum accepted tolerance for us on that is 65 thousandths, 0.065. And that's what this one measures. So when Eric built this gun, clearly he had measured the disconnector rail on the slide, and he made the extractor to be the minimum acceptable tolerance that we use. Now, could it be a little longer? Could it go on to, 245? Sure. But that disconnector rail on this slide is shorter, and so we run the risk, if you make the extractor too long like that, we run the risk then of having the extractor nose hit the rebate of the case, and we don't want that. So minimum gap of 65 thousandths, dead spot on. Eric hit the number perfectly, and the gun runs flawlessly. There is approximately 3 thousandths, 4.5 movement of the extractor now, because things have loosened up. The hammer's hitting that firing pin plate over and over, and it's causing the extractor to shift slightly. 3 thousandths is not really much to worry about. The ejector length is 1.100, so that's exactly what we wanted. Barrel fit. Now this is really interesting to me because this gun has a lot of rounds, and people ask all the time, well, how long can I expect my barrel fit to last on a gun from Chambers Custom? Well, on this particular gun, when I die-comed it up and I cycled the slide, just like I do for Barrel Fit Challenge, it exhibited 60% on the left side and 35% contact on the right side. Yeah, that's less than what we would send the gun out as new, right? However, a gun that has 14,800 rounds on it, that's pretty darn good. And it's also interesting to note, again, that the right-hand leg of the slide of the barrel is worn a little bit more than the left leg because of the torquing forces when the gun unlocks. Slide stop hole in the link was 0.2085, which was exactly what Eric had fitted at. So there's been no overall stretching of the slide stop. Barrel leg height is 0.1055 on the right side and 0.106 on the left side. Link bridge thickness is 0.1035, which was what Eric had set it at to begin with. So a difference of 0.002 and 0.0025, so 2 to 2.5 thousandths is the difference between our link and our barrel legs. Slide way width. Now this is where you guys hear me talking about keep your guns clean, keep them well lubed. Will they run dirty? Absolutely. We've proven that time and time again. You can run these guns for thousands of rounds and they'll function flawlessly. But if you want the gun to last, you got to keep it cleaner. Slide way width is 0.752 and frame rail width is 0.7517 for a difference in tolerance of 0.0003, 3/10 of a thousandths. Slide way height 0.1025, frame rail height 0.100 for a difference of 0.0025, so 2.5 thousandths. And slide rail height 0.11825 and frame way height 0.1205 for a difference of 0.00225, so 2.25 thousandths. Again, guys, I can't tell you this enough. Keeping your gun clean, keeping the gun well lubricated absolutely makes a difference in how your slide to frame fit is going to last. Now, will this gun loosen up more over time as it's shot? Of course it will. It's a mechanical object. You've got parts rubbing together, but the cleanliness of the gun and the lubrication of the gun is what has made this gun maintain the tolerances. Originally, when this gun went out the door, guys, the side to side was 0.0002. So we picked up 1/10 of 1/1000ths. That's nothing. It's a breath, it's ether. Up and down, it originally was 2 and 2, and we've picked up 3/4 of 1/1000ths. Again, you can't even, it's very difficult. I mean, the tools that I use to measure that stuff are very expensive, and it's nominal. Vertical frame impact surface 0.585, barrel vis 0.583, so right there within our tolerance of what we want. Trigger pull parts, trigger pull measured 3 pounds 6 ounces. Originally it went out the door at 3 pounds 9.5 ounces, so it's lightened up a little bit over time. Got a 20-pound mainspring. The disco is a modified part at 1.298. The sear is a modified part at 0.780. Both of those are original numbers. And the hammer hooks were dressed for over travel bump and measure 0.018, which is the original number. All right, so now the final part of the video is always, Joe, would you own one of these? Well, I do own one of these. Unfortunately for me, the one that I own was the one we used to torture test to prove to everybody that these guns would run under extremely adverse conditions and very dirty. And so mine isn't tight like this. I mean, this gun has no perceptible movement whatsoever in the slide to frame. It's still smooth as glass. I shot it today. I was shooting headshots at 50 yards on a half-sized IPSC steel target. This is an amazingly tight, well-built gun, and it should stand as an example of what a properly built gun will do long-term if you take care of it. So there you have it, guys. Night Fighter number 20 after 14,300 plus 500 rounds officially. I'm Joe Chambers with Chambers Custom and 1911 University. And remember, math don't lie. 3.14 is always pi.